Welcome back, house guests, and welcome to Haunted House Calls, where we talk about everything paranormal with some stories and some of my personal experiences. Today, we're going to talk about a psychic ability called, and I may butcher this, but it's called Clairsentience. It's a form of ESP. So we'll go over the meaning and we'll go over a couple personal stories that I have of this. So, first of all, it goes beyond an empathy involving a deeper psychic ability to receive emotional or psychic information from people, places, or even objects, sometimes without direct communication. This may come in forms such as strong gut feelings, energy sensitivity, deep emotional connection, and physical sensation. So this can be associated with twins and how they can feel what the other is feeling. My mother was a fraternal twin, and she swore up and down that she could feel her brother's emotions and what he was feeling, and sometimes what he was thinking. And she called it a special feeling, and it's just one of those things that only twins experience. At least that's what my mother told me. So, check this out. My mother only believed that she had this clairsentience connection with her brother as far as feeling emotions, pain, all the other stuff, sorry. So, it was the summer, and I remember my mother sitting by the phone, right? Because she was an apartment manager and she always had to be by the phone. In the 1990s, there wasn't cell phones or texting or emails or anything like that. So she had to be by the phone. I distinctly remember her jumping up out of her chair and saying that she had to call her brother. So she calls her brother and says, "Are you okay?" She's checking in on him. He says he's fine. They catch up for a little bit. She hangs up the phone and she says something to the effect of, "Oh, I thought there was something wrong with my brother." And I was like, "Oh, is there something wrong with, Uncle so-and-so?" And she said, "No, there isn't. Everything is fine. But I just have this terrible feeling and this sadness, and something doesn't feel right." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, is there anything I can do?" Of course, there's like nothing. How do you explain that? And I was a kid, so, it was kind of hard to comprehend, but I just attributed to the twinning effect. But she was really bewildered. So it was a few months later, and she gets a phone call, and she gets news that her sister has had a traumatic death and that it was sudden. However, the death occurred months before official notification by the police. Only because there was, well, you would have to look it up in the local papers. But they were found sometime later after their death. And my mother gets off the phone and she's just upset. And she's like, I knew I should have called my sister, but I ignored that feeling. I ignored it. And she later told me that she felt a terrible loss and an immense sadness around the time of her sister's death. And she wasn't as emotional at the funeral as I thought she would be. And she had told me that she had already grieved, but way before the funeral, that she was grieving and that she was sad for about 2 weeks. And then she got past that feeling. She was relaying to me that she was feeling not only her sister's energy, but also some of her nephew's energy. And I will get into the details maybe some other time. But that is an example of what we're talking about today is clairsentience. Another story that I have for you is again from my family. It is where my father felt the passing of his grandfather and knew that he had to go home urgently. It was a gut feeling. I personally don't have any of those feelings. Oh, and one other story that I do have for you, and this is very interesting, of a form of ESP or feeling the emotion or physically feeling somebody. So I'm in healthcare and I took care of a young girl, a young pediatric patient, and her mother was telling me that she has this special connection with her daughter and that she can feel her daughter, which is what had led to alerting medical staff that there was something wrong with her daughter while her daughter was recovering from, I believe, a coma. She said they were reversing all of the drugs and I expected to feel my daughter and hear my daughter because we have that connection and we can communicate that way. But all of a sudden, after all of the drugs and they told me to wait and all of that stuff, I couldn't feel my daughter and I knew that there was something wrong. So luckily, their doctor listened to the mother and ordered additional testing, and it was found that the daughter was having a stroke right when they were reversing all of the drugs. So if it wasn't for the mother advocating for her daughter, it would have been a very different scenario for that family. So that's another example of clairsentience. Yes, I cannot say that word. It's another form of ESP. If you have any personal stories, please let me know in the comments. I will put my email and you can email me. I would love to know your personal stories and I would love to know that I am not alone in some of my experiences. Please comment, subscribe, like, and share, and I will happily share more content with you. And if you have any suggestions for me, I would love to hear those too. Thanks, house guests, and have a spooky day.